The night he handed over the 4 black cards, something heavy and invisible cracked inside the room, the kind of silence that feels louder than shouting. Each card gleamed under the chandelier like a promise without limits, a temptation without rules, and no one noticed the woman standing near the wall with a cleaning cloth in her hand, because nobody ever noticed the maid. Yet what would happen next would quietly change every life in that mansion and prove that the smallest hands sometimes carry the greatest power. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that goodness can come from the most unexpected places, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The man who gave the cards was named Arman Khalil, a self-made billionaire whose wealth had grown faster than his heart could keep up with. He lived in a mansion so large that footsteps echoed even when no one else was there, and the walls were decorated with art worth more than entire neighborhoods. From the outside, his life looked perfect, but inside, it was hollow. Years of betrayal, failed relationships, and quiet nights had turned generosity into a kind of experiment for him. He no longer trusted love, effort, or loyalty. He trusted only power, and power, to him, meant money without limits. The 4 women standing before him were carefully chosen. Each represented something Arman believed about the world. The first was a social media influencer, admired by millions, convinced that beauty and attention were the keys to happiness. The second was a struggling entrepreneur who believed money could finally erase years of humiliation and failure. The third was a distant relative who had always felt entitled to his wealth and believed life owed her comfort. The fourth was a woman from high society, elegant and charming, who believed status and luxury were proof of worth. To each of them, Arman handed an unlimited card, telling them they could spend without asking, without limits, without consequences. It was not generosity. It was a test. Hidden in plain sight was the maid, Aisha, a quiet woman in her early 30s who had worked in the mansion for years. Her uniform was always clean, her head always lowered, her presence almost invisible. She knew the rhythm of the house better than anyone else, knew which floorboard creaked, which window let in cold air at night, and which rooms felt loneliest. She had lost her husband years ago to an accident and was raising a young son alone, surviving on a salary that barely covered rent and school fees. Yet despite the weight she carried, there was a softness in her eyes that had not hardened with hardship. As days passed, the cards began to work their magic. Luxury cars arrived at the gate. Designers flew in from other countries. The mansion filled with laughter that sounded forced, excitement that felt hungry. The influencer bought attention in louder ways, chasing validation through extravagance. The entrepreneur drowned her insecurity in deals she barely understood. The relative redecorated rooms she did not own, claiming space as if it were destiny. The socialite hosted parties that glittered on the surface but left emptiness behind once the music stopped. Arman watched it all from a distance. His belief confirmed that when given everything, people revealed their truest selves. Aisha watched too, though no one realized it. She cleaned the messes left after parties, picked up broken glass, folded discarded shopping bags, and listened without listening. She saw how quickly joy turned into restlessness, how excess failed to fill the ache inside people. At night, when the mansion finally slept, she would sit in the small servant's room and count the little money she had saved for her son's future. Her dreams were modest, a stable education, a life where he would not have to bow his head the way she did. One afternoon, something unexpected happened. The entrepreneur, frustrated and overwhelmed by a risky deal, collapsed in tears in an empty hallway. Everyone else was too busy to notice, but Aisha did. She helped her up, offered water, and stayed silently until the storm passed. There were no lectures, no advice about money or power, just human presence. That moment passed quickly, but it planted something small and unnoticed. Days later, the influencer fell sick from exhaustion after chasing non-stop appearances and parties. Again, it was Aisha, who quietly ensured she ate properly, rested, and felt seen as a person rather than a brand. The socialite, despite her elegance, often sat alone after guests left, staring at her reflection as if searching for something missing. Aisha would clean nearby, never intruding, yet somehow offering comfort simply by being there. Armand noticed none of this at first. He was too focused on his experiment, too convinced of his conclusions. But slowly, patterns began to shift. The women started spending less wildly. The laughter changed. It became quieter, more genuine. They spent time talking, reflecting, even helping one another. And strangely, all these changes seemed to happen around the Maid. One evening, Armand overheard something that unsettled him. The relative, once obsessed with entitlement, was discussing funding a small education program for underprivileged children. The entrepreneur had backed out of reckless investments and was planning a sustainable business that created jobs. The influencer had started using her platform to highlight real stories of struggle. None of this aligned with Armand's expectations. He traced the change back, step by step, until he noticed the common thread he had ignored. Aisha. Curiosity replaced certainty. Armand began watching her, truly watching for the first time. He saw how she treated everyone with dignity, even when they barely acknowledged her. He saw her refuse tips she did not earn and quietly help other staff members in need. He learned, through subtle inquiries, about her life, her loss, her child, and her quiet resilience. It disturbed him because it challenged everything he believed. She had almost nothing, yet she seemed whole. Then came the moment no one expected. During a grand dinner meant to celebrate the success of the experiment, Armand publicly announced that the cards would be revoked soon. The room stiffened. Panic flickered behind smiles. Before anyone could react, Aisha stepped forward. It was the first time she had ever broken the invisible line between servant and master. She did not ask for money. She did not beg. She simply placed something on the table. It was an envelope containing a detailed plan she had been working on quietly. A plan to use pooled resources to support education, healthcare, and micro-businesses for people like her. She explained, not in polished words but in sincere intent, how money without purpose corrodes the soul, and how even a fraction of what was wasted could change hundreds of lives. Her hands trembled, but her voice carried truth. The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was different, heavy with realization. The four women looked at her, not as a maid, but as a mirror reflecting their own emptiness and potential. Armand felt something crack inside him that money had never touched. Shame, admiration, and hope collided at once. He realized the test had failed, not because people were greedy, but because he had forgotten the power of guidance, compassion, and example. Aisha, without a card, without wealth, had done what unlimited money could not. She had reminded them of humanity. In the days that followed, everything changed. The cards were not taken away but redefined. The women committed to using them with responsibility. Armand established a foundation based on Aisha's plan and insisted she lead it, despite her protests. Her life changed, but not in the way wealth usually changes people. She remained grounded, focused, and humble, ensuring her son grew up seeing purpose instead of privilege. The mansion no longer felt empty. It became a place of real laughter, real work, and real impact. Armand found peace, not in control, but in contribution. He learned that true power was not in giving without limits, but in inspiring without conditions. Before this story ends, pause for a moment and leave a comment with just one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. As the camera pulls back from the mansion, now alive with purpose, the image of Aisha stands quietly in the background, still unseen by the world, yet responsible for changing it. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can come from anywhere and anyone, please like the video, share it, and stay subscribed. Your engagement helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most.